Is Apple finally ready to change the iPhone in ways that actually feel new? According to recent leaks, the answer is yes, and not just for the iPhone 17. The next few years could bring some major cosmetic and screen upgrades with big changes, expected in 2026 and 2027. And if you're someone who's been waiting for a truly full-screen iPhone, the wait might finally be over soon. Let's start with what we already know. Several reports have already confirmed that the iPhone 17 series, expected next year, will have a new design. One of the most talked about changes is the large camera island, which might look a bit bold to some users. But that's just the beginning. New leaks suggest Apple is planning even bigger visual changes for the iPhones that will launch in 2026 and 2027. According to a supply chain report, Apple's 2026 model, the iPhone 18, will make a huge move by putting Face ID sensors under the display. That means we might finally say goodbye to the dynamic island. Instead, the phone will use a smaller punch hole for the front camera, giving users more screen space and a cleaner look. But the really exciting change is what's expected to happen in 2027. That's when Apple might finally release a true full-screen iPhone. Both the Face ID system and the front selfie camera are expected to be hidden under the display, removing all notches, punch holes, and cutouts completely. If this actually happens, it'll be the first iPhone ever with a screen that's fully uninterrupted. Now here's why this is a big deal. For years, iPhones have looked pretty similar from one generation to the next. Aside from slight camera changes or material upgrades, the front of the iPhone hasn't changed much since the notch was first introduced in 2017. And even though the dynamic island was meant to be a step forward, it was really just a different kind of cutout. The idea of a full-screen iPhone has been floating around for a long time. And if Apple manages to pull it off in 2027, it would mark the 20th anniversary of the original iPhone. That timing feels perfect for a big upgrade. Leaks suggest that Apple might release a new special iPhone Pro model in that year, with a mostly glass-based design and no cutouts. There's also talk about a foldable iPhone finally launching in the same year. Apple has a habit of waiting until a technology is fully ready before it adopts it. So if we really do get a full-screen iPhone in 2027, that likely means the under-display camera and Face ID will be working well enough to match the current quality standards. Other brands have tried under-display cameras before, but the image quality usually takes a hit. Apple will likely want to avoid that. Of course, not everyone is going to be happy with all of these changes. Just like the upcoming iPhone 17 Pro's large camera island, some people may prefer the dynamic island or even the current notch, but change is necessary, especially when it comes to keeping the iPhone feeling fresh. So what do you think? Are you excited about the idea of a full-screen iPhone with no punch hole or notch? Or do you think these updates are just cosmetic and not that important? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if you liked this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more updates on the future of the iPhone. Why does Samsung keep betting on Exynos if it can't keep up? That's the question everyone is asking after the latest leak revealed performance scores for the Galaxy Z Flip 7 powered by the Exynos 2500. And honestly, the results aren't looking good. Not just for this phone, but for the entire future of Samsung's in-house chips. According to a new Geekbench listing that's believed to be for the upcoming Galaxy Z Flip 7, the Exynos 2500 scored 2012 in the single-core test and 7063 in the multi-core test. The listing also confirms the device has 12 GB of RAM and is running Android 16. While these numbers aren't horrible, the reaction from the tech community has been far from positive. Many people feel like they've seen this story before. Samsung promises a better, more competitive Exynos chip, but when the results come out, it still falls short of Snapdragon and Apple's chips. Some fans are accusing Samsung of cutting corners again, while others are just confused why Exynos chips keep trailing this far behind. To give you some perspective, the Snapdragon 8 Elite that powers the Galaxy S25 series scores around 3,220 in single-core and about 10,223 in multi-core. That's a pretty massive gap. Even Apple's older A14 chip from way back in 2020 scores higher than the Exynos 2500 in single-core performance, with a score of 2079. Sure, the Exynos 2500's multi-core result is close to Apple's A17 Pro from last year, which scored 7,441. But overall, that's not exactly something to brag about when you're launching a new device in 2025. This leak doesn't just make the Galaxy Z Flip 7 look weaker, it also raises doubts about Samsung's next big move. The company is reportedly working on a 2nm chip called the Exynos 2600, which is supposed to power the upcoming Galaxy S26 phones. But if the Exynos 2500 is already struggling, it's hard to feel confident about the Exynos 2600 doing much better. This is especially important because Samsung really needs its chip division to bounce back. Last year, the company had to ship the entire Galaxy S25 lineup with Snapdragon chips because the Exynos 2500 wasn't ready. Now, they're hoping to bring Exynos back with the S26, at least in certain regions. But if the Exynos 2600 doesn't deliver, that plan could backfire badly. At the same time, there are other factors making things more complicated. Qualcomm is reportedly planning to raise prices for its next-gen Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 2 chip, which could make Galaxy phones more expensive. And with US politics potentially affecting Apple's supply chain under Trump's latest trade plans, the entire smartphone industry is heading toward a more uncertain and expensive future.
Can Samsung finally fix its Exynos problem with the Galaxy S26? For years, Samsung fans have been split over one thing: Snapdragon versus Exynos. If you've followed Samsung's flagship phones, you already know the pattern. Some regions get Qualcomm's Snapdragon chips, others get Samsung's in-house Exynos, and usually the Snapdragon models perform better. But now, all eyes are on the Exynos 2600 and the upcoming Galaxy S26 series, because this could be the chipset that either saves Exynos or buries it for good. According to the latest reports, Samsung is going back to its old strategy. The Galaxy S26 and S26 Plus will launch in two versions depending on the region. Some markets will get the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 for Galaxy, while others will receive the Exynos 2600. Samsung has been working on this new Exynos chip for quite some time, and it's built on the company's new 2nm process. That's a big technical milestone, especially after Samsung struggled with its 3nm production in 2024. But here's the twist. Samsung is reportedly not using Exynos at all in the Galaxy S26 Ultra, no matter where you are in the world. That's the clearest sign yet that Samsung still isn't fully confident in the new Exynos 2600. If it were just as good as Snapdragon, the Ultra should have had it too, right? This decision says a lot. Samsung has a pattern. Whenever performance really matters, they go with Snapdragon. And past Exynos chips have had their issues: less power efficiency, heating problems, and lower performance in demanding tasks like gaming and video processing. So even though Samsung has spent a lot of time and money building up Exynos again, the fact that the S26 Ultra is skipping it entirely doesn't exactly inspire confidence. But here's why this matters so much. Samsung isn't just trying to save money by avoiding Qualcomm. The company is planning for a future where it relies less on outside suppliers. Just like how Apple built its own M-series chips, Samsung wants to build its own high-end processors. Exynos is a big part of that vision, and if it works, it could give Samsung tighter control over performance, battery life, and long-term support. The Exynos 2600 has to deliver this time, not just for users, but for the company's entire strategy. If it performs well, it'll help Samsung rebuild trust. If it fails, it'll push more people to avoid regions with Exynos-powered models. That's bad for sales and bad for the brand. And consumers aren't forgiving. Even if most people can't feel the performance difference in daily use, no one wants to pay the same price for a product that's technically worse. That's the core issue. So the pressure is real. Samsung can't afford another chip that runs hot, drains the battery too fast, or scores low on benchmarks.